Okay, my name is Komal Kehar and I'm from Montreal, Canada. In 6 words, I would describe myself as someone who's curious, adventurous, loyal, discreet, fun-loving.
So we should be in the middle because we are west. So it's black,
and diplomatic. My idea of design became really regimented before I came to this course. It was very much about, you had a purpose, then you planned for it, then you executed, and you did that on repeat. The course helped to kind of broaden my perspective again. It helped me see that it really affects every part of your daily life, every interaction that you have, and how much of yourself you project onto things and how much things project back onto you. The ideas I project onto objects are ideas related to emotions, I think. So whether it's something that was joyous or painful or hurtful, I tend to kind of associate that with certain objects. I wrote about this actually in class. One object in particular that is kind of a very comforting object for me is my gold chain, because it was something that my mom gave to me, and so I associated with her, and it gives me a lot of comfort. The course has allowed me to be a little bit more engaged with the world, more engaged with people, to have a better understanding of them, and to really kind of seek out the reasons behind things. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Komal, and my thesis is titled Potty Training, Rethinking Urban Hygiene Design in the Smart City. Please consider the following. Okay, thank you. Flushing. How many times have you flushed the toilet today? 2, 3, maybe 5 times? This gesture has become second nature in cities like New York, and this is causing a huge strain on the city's infrastructure. On rainy days, the system often becomes overwhelmed by the amount of wastewater it has to process. This means that up to 20 billion gallons of raw, untreated sewage annually flows into our waterways. That's equivalent to 30 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So while flushing is a small part of daily life, it has a far-reaching negative impact. And what's also overlooked is the toilet itself. The standard toilet encodes a very specific set of cultural values. And these values are further embedded into the design language of modernism. The toilet is speaking to us, but maybe we've forgotten what it's trying to say. To underscore this point, I want to share a quote from English professor Elaine Scarry. She writes, "While the human being is a creature that is seeing, breathing, hearing, and I would add, feces and urine manufacturing, the human is also a projecting creature." So what are we projecting onto the toilet? This can be unpacked by isolating the vocabulary of modernism. The standard toilet is white, and white is design code for purity. The toilet is curvy. This is called streamlining in industrial design, and it's meant to make exterior surfaces less prone to collect dirt. And finally, the toilet's main feature is the bowl of water into which we defecate and urinate. And water, especially in the context of religious beliefs that underpin our cultural notions, is linked to the idea of cleansing. We can likely agree that this is a useful and convenient system, but to paraphrase anthropologist Mary Douglas, what's unseen is how the toilet is a control device that has ordered the city and disciplined our bodies. So by design, human excrement is considered waste and taboo, and through the act of flushing, it disappears into an invisible system of underground pipes. Here's a diagram showing the sewage system in New York. It's a vast, complex system that begins with the act of flushing. The waste is then piped out of the buildings to various treatment stations where, among other things, germs that cause things like typhoid and cholera are removed. After the treatment, the liquid waste goes back into the rivers, and the solid waste is trucked into landfills outside the city. I'm proposing that this is a missed opportunity. and something worth reconsidering, especially within the framework of the so-called smart city narrative. Globally, there are numerous and varying types of smart city projects. What these projects have in common in their use of the word smart is that they all imply a certain blind faith in network technology, that network technology will solve all or nearly all urban issues. Technology vendor Siemens, for example, defines smart as the following: countless autonomous IT systems that will have perfect knowledge of users' habits with the goal of optimally regulating and controlling resources. This sounds like a contemporary version of George Orwell's 1984. Corporate interests are largely governing the public face of the smart city, and it's really about an opportunity to collect large amounts of data. But to what end? Their approach to smart is reinforcing corporate power in the public realm, and maybe this is not truly intelligent for city dwellers and the city itself. Consider that by 2050, 2/3 of the world's population will live in dense urban settlements. That's a twofold increase. These new city people will likely not enjoy the ease of the infrastructure that we have, and moreover, even in a place like New York, the existing system will struggle to meet the demands of a growing population and changes in climate patterns. Curiously, what's missing in any of these smart city discussions is a conversation on how to handle increasingly large volumes of human excrement. My thesis now is speculative and proposing the following. Can smartness be defined more broadly to include the redesign of urban hygiene systems? I'm deliberately using the term urban hygiene here as a way to replace sanitation. Sanitation is a 19th century term to define a centralized, hierarchical way of handling human excrement on an urban scale. Alternatively, urban hygiene is a term I've coined to possibly define a decentralized infrastructure or even a hybrid solution working within an existing centralized framework. The idea is that urban hygiene systems would be better adaptive to changing local conditions, and most importantly, these would recycle human excrement into productive inputs. What are these inputs? Broadly speaking, there are two main ways in which feces and urine can be recycled. Lucius Colomena, a prominent writer on agriculture in ancient Rome, wrote a treatise where he directed farmers to moisten the roots with human feces and stale urine in order to obtain the juiciest pomegranates. On the other hand, a more recent development is to utilize human excrement as a source of fuel to produce electricity. One of the main funders for this type of research is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They have invested their resources into various projects to find alternatives to the water-based toilet. The project I'd like to highlight today is called Urinetricity. It's been developed by the Bristol Bioenergy Centre based at the University of West London. They've piloted a project at the Sesame Girls School in northern Uganda. They were able to install there a system that recycled urine to light their school's bathroom facilities. This is broadly how it works. There are 440 microbial fuel cells that were installed on site. These basically act like a battery to store electrical energy. The fuel for this energy comes from the urine, which was diverted from the existing toilets and fed into this system. The magic ingredient of this system are these special bacteria that eat the stuff in urine and produce electrons, which is converted into electricity. The end result is having 5 light bulbs powered in a place that didn't have power at all. These are few images shared by the Bioenergy Center of the project in Uganda. I want to emphasize that the issues around sanitation in places like Uganda and New York are not the same. But New York and similar cities can still learn from this case study. In Uganda, urban hygiene is linked not only to disease prevention, but also to issues around the safety for women. While this is not something to gloss over, I think it's relevant to note that even a relatively small project in a so-called developing nation can provide insight on how to approach urban hygiene in a smarter way. The Western sanitation system, on the other hand, has been a tool used to leverage power over other parts of the world. What I'm suggesting is that this project and similar ones are a means to show that there are ways to think about urban hygiene, and some of these ways can be imported and integrated into New York. Going back to Elaine Scarry's ideas, the city can be viewed as a type of cultural making that works against the pain of human experience in an urban condition. Given that we are at a time that cities are being remade, the Smart City project is an opportunity that doesn't have to be co-opted by large corporations and big money interests. It's a chance to recode a different set of values where human excrement would not be veiled in taboo, but rather celebrated as a valuable cultural and economic input that would potentially help grow plants and to power the city. So the next time you go to flush, think about the relative privilege, but also the enormous waste of potential resources that can be mined in feces and urine. Recycling these could feasibly address issues of urban sustainability. Now, look to the year 2050. Imagine living in a New York City building where your pee and poo powers your laptop, your phone, and the lights in your apartment. This isn't just a fantasy. It's a scenario that can happen in the truly smart city of the future. Thank you.